Hello everyone, it's me, Henry Buxtall. Welcome to my channel, Troubleshooting with Henry. I feel confident. Today's guest is Laurie Koensgen. Laurie lives in Ottawa, Canada, where she advocates for the arts, a founding member of the Ruby Tuesdays Poetry Collective. Laurie is a poet, editor, and educator. She teaches creative writing in middle school classrooms through the Ottawa International Writers Festival. Laurie's poems have been published in many literary magazines, including Arc Poetry, Black Bough Poetry, and Burning House Press, just to name a few. She was shortlisted for the 2018 Malahat Review's Far Horizons Award and received honorable mentions in ARC's Diana Brebner Prize for 2018 and the new quarterly occasional verse contest in 2019. Her first book of poems, Headlonging, was published by Floodlight Editions in 2021. It sold out within days of its first printing. Hi, Laurie. Welcome to Troubleshooting with Henry, the interviews. I've got 10 questions for you. Are you ready to get started?
I am. Thank you, Henry.
Let's start with the first question. When you were a kid, what did you want to do as a grown-up?
I think from the moment I could hold a pencil and form letters, I wanted to write. I wanted to write and have people read my ideas and see what I was communicating. I didn't really know what writers did. I would see them on the jackets of books, and I kind of imagined that they were just really clever people who were full of ideas, and the ideas would just absolutely pour out without a whole lot of work. I didn't understand when I was young how much discipline and planning is involved in writing. But I always wanted to write poetry, and I think it's because I love words, I love sounds, and I love the way they rhyme and chime and they kind of play opposite each other. I also wanted to be a teacher, and I had several wonderful teachers, and they inspired me a lot. And so I wanted to be somebody that could open up the world for other people the way the teachers had for me.
Well, that's great. What is your career now?
I've done a lot of things. Done a lot of things in the arts, organizing people and events, and I've done a lot of editing and teaching and so on. But right now, my main profession, really my only profession, is being a poet. Again and still.
What's the worst job you've ever had, and why was it so bad?
In my 20s, when I was probably 22, I answered an ad for the National Film Board. They had a wonderful traveling exhibit of enormous photographs on sort of wheels. And they were set up at City Hall in Toronto, which is an extremely busy and hectic place. The photos were fine. They were spectacular, but the circumstances were really tough. I was outside for 8 hours a day, generally in the sun, often in the rain that summer. They gave us little ponchos, but they weren't very adequate. And for some reason, the pigeons adored me. And they tended to poop on me a lot, which was extremely unpleasant, to be wearing something on your shoulders that you hadn't planned on. There were also lots of unusual people that hung around, people that were obsessed with politics because it was City Hall. They were very passionate and sometimes too intense. Actually, though, of all those things, the worst aspect of it was that all the cement around City Hall was under construction, and there were jackhammers hammering and drilling. It was a bit of a nightmare. In fact, in thinking about this question, I can hear the sound still.
Wow. That must have been crazy.
It was wild. It was difficult.
I can only imagine. Did you go to college or university? And if so, what did you study there?
I did go to university and I studied English literature, mostly poetry and modern drama. And I studied Spanish. At that time, I was quite fluent in Spanish. I've lost a lot of that. And I loved it. It was stressful, but I loved it. I think one of the things about studying literature is that you see how much you read, how much beautiful work there is out there. So it's humbling when you're thinking about being a writer to think of adding your small work to this body of work that exists and is historical and beautiful.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, moving on. What I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit, but what got you interested in the job that you have now?
Right. And I know what you mean by the repetition, because I guess it's been a bit of an obsession for me. I think I was always interested in writing. Maybe now, though, I hope I'm a better writer. I think that I have more to say about the world. I have more experience, and I've spent a long time honing my craft. And yeah, but it's been a persistent preoccupation.
Yeah. What do you find most challenging about your job?
Writing is a very solitary profession. And so I don't have a boss or a supervisor who might keep me on track or keep me motivated. I don't have coworkers that I can share ideas with. So when I'm doubtful about myself, it's just me. And sometimes I'm not sure if what I'm doing has value, if it's worth reading. So actually, I have a solution for that. I belong to a writing group, as you mentioned before, the Ruby Tuesdays, and we get together weekly and we critique each other's work. And they happen to be very talented writers. I'm extremely fortunate. So I get outside opinions that are really important to my work. And over the years, it's been 15 years now, they've become more than friends. Some of these women are my family. They're like sisters to me.
That's excellent. Can you give me an example of a time you had to troubleshoot an issue with your job or your personal life and the solution you came up with?
I used to volunteer in a school, a small elementary school, and I would bring in performances, art performances, and maybe puppetry and theater and musicians. And I found it really exciting. I'd occasionally look around at the teachers and think, wow, some of them seem moody or disinterested or not feeling as I hoped they would, not sharing the excitement. And I was struggling to figure that out. And then one day I had a flash realization that because the performances were taking place in the gym, the teachers who had gym classes scheduled were losing out. Their students weren't getting rid of their wiggly energy, and it really changed the rhythm of their days. So I thought, what can I do? I went and got the schedule for who had gym when, and about a week before a performance would come in, I'd go and visit the teachers and say, I'm sorry, you're going to be losing out on some gym time. And often just saying that really made them appreciative. I think people love to have their problems recognized and valued. Depending on the teachers, when the events happen, I would sometimes have permission to invite the kids in to meet the performers, to be face to face with the actors before the rest of the school came in. And once they connected like that, they were so involved. My solution must have worked because that was 20 years ago, and I'm still friends with a lot of those teachers.
Wow. What do you find most rewarding about your career?
I think there are two things, in fact. There's the act of writing itself can sometimes be just the most awesome experience. You have moments, they're rare, they're not all the time, but you can have moments where you get past words and ideas almost into kind of the magic of the creative process, almost like you're tingling, like you're electric. And that's just wonderful. It's not something you can easily control. However, the more you write, the more likely you are to have those brief experiences. I think in terms of a practical reward, I recently really enjoying being published and having work that's out there for the world to see. It's a curious feeling when somebody you don't know, for instance, reads your writing, and they might even be across the world. They might even reach out to you and through social media or letters and actually say that something that you wrote gave real meaning to their day, or something you wrote helped them describe something they were feeling and didn't have the words for. So that experience is incredibly rewarding. It's delightful.
Yeah, I'd bet. What do you do for fun?
One of the things I love to do in my leisure is walk, particularly with friends. Of course, these days we're walking 6 feet apart and have to keep that yardstick between us. But I love to walk, especially around trees. And it's easy in my neighborhood to get away from cars and buses. It doesn't take long to get into tree-lined streets or the arboretum where I don't think that I necessarily hug trees. I think about it, but I love to be among them. That's really, to me, it's fun. It feels connecting. It feels important. I also, in terms of going places, I love to go to art galleries. That's really where I kind of recharge. And I think part of that is because we have such long, cold winters and everything is very white and cold and colorless. And going to art galleries opens up the world of color and texture, which I feel we need, and form, and really recharges me, really makes me connect with someone else's ideas and have a kind of a tactile visual experience.
Yeah, that's excellent. I'd like to make a recommendation.
Okay.
If you ever go to somewhere like France, there's some of the best art galleries in the world. I would recommend that you hit one of those up if you go there.
Oh, I would love to. That would be a very great thrill.
All right. What? We're at question number 10 already.
Oh, I'm amazed.
If someone was visiting the city where you live, what would you recommend that they see?
We are fortunate here because we have so many national organizations. We have the National Gallery, the National Art Center, all kinds of museums, and all of them are important and very beautiful. But those are not what I would recommend. I would recommend smaller arts places where you see work of local people, not just people from across the country or beyond. One of my very favorite places to go is a gallery space. It's a cooperative called EBA. It's the Enriched Bread Artists Co-op. And at least once a year, they have a fabulous open house where all of the studios, it was an old bread factory that's been turned into 3 stories of art studios, and all of them are open during the open house, and people wander from one to another. You get to meet the artists and see the work that they're working on at that moment. Also, a lot of their former work from previous years, but you really get a feeling of how they're dealing with the world's issues and the changes in the world by what they're working on at that moment. It's very exciting. I would recommend that. I would put that on my number one, my top.
Yeah, actually, I might go visit one of those when this whole mess is over.
I'd love to join you. I think we should do that.
Yeah. Thank you for being on my show, Laurie.
You're very welcome, Henry. I enjoyed myself thoroughly. I really appreciated your questions, and I loved going back in time.
Yeah, I could tell. I don't know if you know the saying, a creative person simply must create.
I had not heard that, and I agree.
Yeah, it kind of refers to it. You have to work that part of the brain, or else you start to lose it.
It's so true. It's so true, and it's the joy center of the brain. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the big takeaway for me is that Laurie stuck with poetry and didn't pretend to be someone that she wasn't. It turned her into a published poet, and I bet she never thought she would get this far. This is proof that sometimes, if you stick with something long enough, you will achieve great things. Laurie went to school and studied about writing. She practiced and practiced, and now she's published. Another thing that struck me was when Laurie was talking about troubleshooting. Sometimes just recognizing that there's a problem can relieve some of the stress for other people, especially when there's schedules involved. Laurie saw a problem. She solved it by asking for the reason and recognizing it was an issue for the other teachers. Laurie's next chapbook will be out in late summer 2021, published by Rose Garden Press in London, Ontario. It's one long narrative poem titled Blue Moon, Orange Begonias. To find out more about the Enriched Bread Artist Studios that Laurie recommended, you can go to www.enrichedbreadartists.com. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe below. And as always, special thanks to Johnny Flynn for giving us permission to use his beautiful music. Happy travels!
Is waiting for you.